Now, welcome everyone. As more people are going to be joining us this afternoon, I'm very excited to have all of the different co-organizers across the world and to have our fabulous guest speakers that are in the Web3 space. I'm very excited um, to share more about the different organizations that have collaborated together from in Cameroon, Liberia, and also in Nigeria, and to share more about what's Web3 that has been like a buzzword for about some time now. And I know a lot of individuals is thinking, what happened to Web 1? What happened to Web 2? Web 3 just came out of nowhere. So we make sure that we are going to just cover just a snippets before we dive in. But first, um, I would like to give the floor and the platform to all of the co-organizers who have successfully put this event together. Um, it's never easy to collaborate across countries, across time zones, but I'm very happy that we were able to do that under um, under the advancement to enhance blockchain education. I see that it was slightly cut off, but one of the things that we really want to do is to make sure we are the builders, we are the promoters of this new technology. Often, when new technology is emerged or being introduced to society, um, and the African and Black community, we are usually stuck as consumers. And this is actually a great opportunity for us to actually get ahead of the new technology and actually be like the builders and be the one that is advocating and uplifting other people to be in this space, Web3 and blockchain. So I was first, my name is Kevin Famingia. I am the CEO and founder of Bridge Labs. Bridge Labs is an international software development firm where we build custom applications for different businesses and NGOs. We are very intentional with hiring African developers because we believe that African developers are an untapped market that often people overlook. So we are very intentional with working in the continent of Africa and also connecting with other entrepreneurs and businesses in America. Um, Joining us today, we also have the different event organizers from Cameroon, DC Data Girls on Technologies, and also Hustlers of Engineering. I do understand earlier today that area in Boya, Cameroon was having electricity issue. So currently right now, um, the two organizers are not here. They are still working through that. But I'm just going to just highlight about the great things about DC Data Girls and Hustler Engineer. DC Data Girl is an ed tech startup located in Boya, Cameroon, where they train women developers to become full stack developers. They have a series of cohort throughout the year where they have successfully trained over 80 women developers. And this is Selma, who is like the CEO, fantastic. I've reached out to her and like the amazing things that they are doing in Limbe, Cameroon. So I'm very excited to have been working with them to put this event together. Hustlers of Engineering is a developer community organization located in Boya, Cameroon, where they host different educational and community events to teach and to also empower different developers. And those are like our two organizations from Cameroon. I would like to give the floor to Lawrence and also other organizations, and also Roteva House of Innovation. Go ahead.
Thank you a lot, Kevin. I really appreciate it. Very happy to be here. Hello, everybody. My name is Sergeant Lawrence Kwame Tutterman Jr. I am the founder and CEO of Liberia Forward. We are a nonprofit organization here in Liberia with a vision to create, nurture, and empower Liberian leaders for the 21st century. Our mission is to revitalize local communities with transformative practices in education and modernizing it with modern infrastructure in the fields of agriculture, technology, education, and any sector of our economy that can help move Liberia forward. We're very thankful to be working with Bridge Labs Technology. They've been essential in establishing the technology for Liberia Forward and helping us be as successful as we are today and being able to make the impact that we're making right now here in Liberia. We also work alongside with our partner organization, Rotel House of Innovation, Dr. Davidson Erickson. He's currently setting up the room with our people here in Liberia, but I'll speak a little bit on his, if you don't mind, Kevin, just before he walks in so we can keep on going. But Rotel House of Innovation is a computer science organization, nonprofit located here in Liberia, and we give opportunity to young men and women here in Liberia that they would not have access to be able to learn JavaScript, CSS, Python, you name it, we're able to do it here. All forms of software development, hardware, and web development all together. If you have any questions, you can find us at liberiaforward.org or at rotel.org, and we'll make sure to put both of those in the chat room.
Thank you so much, Lawrence, and for telling more about Liberia Forward and Rotel House of Innovation. I do know that you guys are setting up in person, right? That's kind of cool.
Yes, we set up a location right here in person because of the challenges that we're having with electricity right now in country, similar to Cameroon, but you know, where there's a will, there's a way, and we're going to find a way to move forward.
You know, that's what I'm talking about. We'll always go find a way to move forward. Nothing should stop us, right? Only technologists, we got to figure something out. All right, so joining us, we also have Sabi programmers from Nigeria. Sabi, would you like to unmute yourself and introduce yourself and your organization?
All right, Calvin, thank you very much. I don't know, is my voice loud enough? All right, yeah. Greetings, everyone. My name is Obed Anthony, and I'm the team lead at Sabi Programmers. All right, quickly, let me just hint a little about Sabi Programmers. Okay, Sabi Programmers, it's a team of programmers. We basically do just two things. We build softwares and applications for businesses, local businesses within our community here in Nigeria, Lagos, Ondo State, and a few other cities here in Nigeria. All right, we have a couple of applications out there that several businesses, schools, hospitals, and different restaurants are already using to either manage their restaurants or help improve their services in one way or the other. So that's what we do. That's part of what we do as Sabi Programmers, we build. And then another thing we do as Sabi Programmers is we equally train. There are a couple of young guys around us that are interested in learning some of these skills. They want to know how to build a mobile application. They want to know how to build a web application. That's also part of what we do. We have an academy section known as the Sabi Programmers Academy. It is through that section we are able to organize 2 to 3 months training from here and there, depending on what the individual would like to learn. All right. As a matter of fact, I am just coming out of a training room now. Since morning, we've been having training sections with students. So I had to just excuse myself in order to join this meeting. So once again, it's amazing. I'm really excited being in this particular meeting. It's great working with Bridge Labs and a couple of other organizations from different parts of Africa and different parts of the world. Yes, that is Sabi Programmers, and that is what we do at Sabi Programmers. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Oh.
All right, before we dive into having our guests present and share more about their backgrounds, I think it's very important to actually set the stage and talk about what is Web3. Now, if you Google what's Web3, you probably find so many definitions about this new technology. One can even say it's probably not even so new. This technology has been around for nearly more than 5 to 7 years, but now it started to hit mainstream given like the recent emergence of NFTs, decentralized applications. Now we are starting to learn more into DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. So all of those are just jargon, buzzwords around the blockchain and Web3 industry. But I'm gonna try my best to break it down as if I am talking to someone like my niece or my nephew. So, and once again, definitely do your research, read more about it, because once again, there is so many great experts, the subject matter experts actually talking more about this. So to really start off, a lot of us is essentially of age to remember like the basic websites that it wasn't very interactive. It was very static. So that was during like the first .com era, the 1990 to 2005. Now, especially for my developers, this will make more sense. It was mainly JavaScript, HTML, but it wasn't dynamic. Now, then eventually, as we start to grow the technology, especially when it comes to processing feeds and being able to have the websites be a lot more dynamic, that's when we see like the emergence of Web2, where we start seeing a lot more applications being built on the internet from the social media giants, from Facebook to YouTube to Instagram. But one of the interesting things that what makes Web2 very powerful is how data is centralized. So in order to process millions amount of data points per second, the major companies needed to be able to have data centers where they have those servers. So from there, that's where you see like the major companies having a centralized location and as well as control over like the major servers and data, user data. Now, a lot of people have their qualms about having major companies have full control or the majority of control over user data. One, it becomes a security risk. We have seen so many data breaches over like the past 5 to 10 years that if Facebook or Google is hacked, that and they have access to a lot of billions of amount of people's data, that that's a risk. And then also, a lot of the companies, they are incentivized to increase profit. So there has been a lot of reports of the ethics of using our data to increase profit or to cater the content to make sure that it's an increased user experience. So a lot of individuals are really talking about this this data structure on how are we entrusting companies, how are we thinking about like the data architecture of our servers. So Web2, think about it as like it's centralized. Now, when it comes to Web3, as you see in the image on my right-hand side, Web3 says no intermediaries. So it is decentralized, meaning the data where with the server that is hosting like the data, it is not controlled. It is not essentially centralized under one company. We call these nodes. So it is thousands, one can argue even 100,000 of computers that is actually hosting your data. So in a way, it is making sure that data points is spread across the different computers. And also, you have the control over your data given your private keys. And we are going to talk more about that, like what's the private key? And essentially, and these are Web3 tools to connect to Web3 platforms like MetaMask, Trust Wallet, but you have the private key, you have the access to have that, take that control back when it comes to data. Now, what does this look like in a real world sense? Because there's something about talking about theory, but then there's another thing actually talking about in practice. So this is why we have our guests here to actually share about the projects that they are doing in Web3 to have some practice and some practicality of how can we implement this tool into our everyday life and to see like the benefits of Web3. And by the way, if you have any questions, please always use the Q&A feature in the chat. So, and we will make sure that we will answer it pretty timely. So, without further ado, Kwame was Honorable Julia Duncan Castle, was she's able to connect to the internet? I know you said she was having some issues.
Yeah, she was having some issues. She said, please give her some time. So we may have to try and circle back.
Okay. Sounds good. So first, we have Terey Ross. Terey Ross is, she's a fashion designer and CEO of FAM USA. This is a fashion brand that really placed a lot of emphasis on embodying being bold. She, given what she designs and also with her being featured in several fashion shows, she has a very strong niche on how she wants to like present her line to the world. And I'm very excited to have her as a guest because she is utilizing digital fashion and Web3 to expand to expand her reach and to also onboard more fashion designers to the Web3 space. So I'm going to table it to Terey. I know, Terey, you provided me with your deck, so I'm about to load that.
Thank you.
Does everyone see my screen? Fantastic. Okay, cool. Terey, you may take it away. Once again, if you have any questions for Terey, please feel free to drop it down in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. Okay, so like you said, my name is Terey Ross. I am from Washington, D.C., but currently living in Pasadena, California. And this is my fashion brand, FemUSA, and it's a women's ready-to-wear clothing brand. So I've been designing for about 7 years, and I started off as a self-taught designer. Originally, I started off making tote bags in high school in my grandfather's upholstery shop. So I've always kind of sort of been around sewing machines, and it's something that kind of runs through my family line. I decided to stick with my passion, which later on grew into me designing clothing. And then eventually, currently right now, that's why I'm in Pasadena, California, I'm currently mastering my craft at Pasadena City College. So some of the fashion shows that I've been featured in are Richmond's Model Your Heart charity fashion show. I did the Spell House, the infamous Spell House, Morehouse combined homecoming fashion show that was sponsored by Ford. I also had one of my looks featured in the Howard Theater's Black Goddess tribute. And then most recently, I just participated in DC Fashion Week, where I debuted my latest collection, Color Coded. Okay, so FemUSA is based in the US, and like Kevin stated, it's a brand that embodies boldness. So we believe in fearless femininity and design, a curated selection of bold, world, classy, sexy, and captivating clothing while unveiling the latest trends. So what does our current project look like with merging Web3 and fashion? So currently we are working on virtual clothing, and some of the benefits of that is it's very similar to the design process for physical clothing. So for example, the developer, my team of developers is like my team of seamstresses or like my manufacturer. They're the ones that are actually creating the clothes. And unlike someone that's already in the industry, there's someone that probably isn't as, up to know on what certain specs of like fabric or like details. So you have to make sure that you communicate everything clearly to them. So whether or not there's a split in the design, whether or not there's like a chain detail, and getting down to maybe even like the weight of the chain. There's also making sure that quality control is in place, making sure that the design actually looks like the physical world design. Another benefit I would say of the virtual clothing is that you're tapping into a market for virtual clothing. So we know, like even like in video games and things like that, people, they purchase, there is a market of people that do purchase clothing for like their avatars. So that's something that I'm really interested in bridging this gap in fashion with tech. So some of the other benefits of merging benefits of merging fashion and Web3 is you get to design your very own virtual 3D model, and it's yours, so you own it. The really cool thing about that is it can then be something that you use as like another branding tool, right? That says, hey, look at this new technology that I'm using, and then all the other benefits that come with it. Another thing would be saving money by building the 3D avatar versus hiring a model for advertisement or even using a CAD system. So one of the things about like hiring a model, let's say just for one particular project, you can have prices range from anywhere from $150 to $200 per hour for that model. And sometimes the fees are even more, So you'll have a 3D model that you can always use. There's no need to hire that person or determine what the wages are. So it's significantly bringing the cost down. And then also with using a CAD system, CAD systems provide like 3D virtual clothing as well, but the entry fee for those systems are usually really expensive. Okay. Also, I wanted to touch on digital models. So one of the other benefits is that it's a versatile, like branded asset. So you can have your own model, for example, and brand her as, like, for the lack of a better word, a company mascot, right? And then you can have her wear your clothing and show it in virtual form, where you have the benefits of having that 360 view of the clothing. So you can show it to your customers, you can show it to a possible factory, and et cetera. You can also then take that asset and then promote that model with other companies by already delivering them an established 3D model or avatar, and giving them the option to then maybe even just put their clothing on there. And then that way you kind of have like this, I'll call it a virtual model agency thing going on. Another thing that's really cool is we are looking into the possibility of like models turning themselves into 3D virtual models, right? So that they can also get in on using this technology. And then that would be yet another promotional or branding asset that they could then kind of scout to other companies. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, so our latest project, we developed an NFT, and I'm working with Bridge Labs. That's my team of developers. We developed a NFT named Ryan Moreau. So this is Ryan, if you see to the right of your screen. She's our very first FemUSA model, okay? And Ryan, she's hardworking, she's determined, and she's determined to prove that she has what it takes to make it in the fashion metaverse. All right. So one of the benefits about this is it's completely scalable and environmentally friendly. So that's one of the main things that is constantly being talked about in the fashion industry is sustainable fashion. And I know I've heard talks about a lot of big name brand designers looking into kind of scaling back their sample making process, because they're coming to learn that that's the most expensive and generally the most wasteful process in the entire fashion design process. With Scalable, you're able to crank out more looks in a shorter period of time for the 3D virtual feature. Some of the benefits that it holds to NFT holders who would buy this NFT would be 10% off on FemUSA products, which is really cool because there's a way that you can plug something in. And I'm not completely 100% sure about the specs on the technology, but there's a way that you can make it so that your website is searching for, in the wallet, does this person have this NFT? And if they do, it acts as like a discount code where you could then give them 10% off on all your products without ever having to go in and create like a discount code and setting like, oh, when do you want this date to end, etc. Another benefit is the customized 3D virtual fashion starter pack, which comes with one 3D model, one outfit or one look, and then 3 accessories. And that's all I have. Thank you for your attention. Are there any questions? Let's see, there's chat going on. Let's see. This is great. New virtual started launching on Facebook and Messenger. As of yesterday, it would allow us to. Oh yeah, that's super cool. Super cool. All right, well, if no one has any questions, that's all I have. And thank you.
Thanks, Terey. I appreciate it. Most likely, I do have some follow-up questions, but that's what we'll be doing, like the discussion period. But thanks, appreciate it. Next up, we have, let me go back to, next we have Cynthia, Cynthia Overton. And Cynthia, do you have a presentation that you'd like to share it? If not, I can share my screen. That's fine with me.
I am just going to be talking.
Sounds good with me. I love that.
All right,
Cool.
so I will try to be fast. First of all, thanks to Kevin at Bridge Labs and the other organizers for inviting me here. It is a privilege to share the panel with Camille, Terey, and I'm hoping that Julia can join. And by the way, how cool is Terey's project? It's really exciting. I'm joining you from the US, right outside of Washington, DC, but thanks to DNA kits, I know Nigeria and Cameroon are part of my ancestry, which makes today extra special for me. Let me start off by saying that I think that there's a lot of opportunity for people of African descent in Web3. I'm going to talk to you, though, about some really important issues in Web3 that aren't really being discussed in the community. So I have a social science background. I started looking at the link between technology and people about 20 years ago during my doctoral studies. And back then, we were really starting to see the broad adoption of Web 1. And I remember having conversations with my classmates about the lack of online content that appealed to African Americans. So fast forward a few years, we saw the explosion of all these Web 2 companies, these tech companies. African Americans were using Web 2 tech, but it was really tough for Black folks to get jobs in Web 2 tech companies. In fact, a lot of these tech companies took legal steps to keep their demographic data private. Around 2014, these Web 2 tech companies eventually released their workforce data, which revealed that Black folks represented just about 3% of Silicon Valley tech companies, even though they represented about 12% of the population in the United States. And that's what leads to Web3 and this conversation. You know, I think that there's a lot of optimism over Web3 being the great equalizer, but it's really important to recognize that in the United States and in other parts of the world, our IRL or our in real life experiences are grounded in systems that are designed to unfairly advantage some and disadvantage others. So bear with me. I do have a point here in terms of how this relates to Web3, I promise. So I started off talking about my African ancestry, right? Well, my European ancestry is directly linked to the US slave system, which of course we all know declared humans of African descent as property for forced labor and personal gratification. Now, the 13th Amendment did outlaw slavery in the US, except for in the prison system, and the criminal justice system here has really just gone to great lengths to unfairly and disproportionately punish African Americans. Redlining was a government-supported initiative that really interfered with home ownership for African Americans, which of course stifled wealth building opportunities. Jim Crow laws solidified the foundation for the segregation that we see here in the United States. And even though, you know, we had this whole separate but equal messaging, African Americans were offered inferior education, housing, and amenities in general. For a very long time, it was legal for universities to deny admission based on race. It was legal for financial institutions to deny applications for credit and loans based on race. And even though I live in what is described as a democratic society, laws and practices in place to suppress voting among African Americans exist to this very day. The US is such a leader when it comes to race-based laws that Nazi lawyers studied these laws in the 30s when they were developing the framework for the Nuremberg laws, which went on to just do unimaginably horrific things to human beings. And so here's my point, finally, right? The US and other parts of the world just has a legacy of systems that are designed to advantage some and to disadvantage others. So when we hear that Web3 is the great equalizer. We have to be cognizant of the social factors that play into Web3. There's still a need for Web3 onboarding for users. That's real. There's still a need for blockchain education so that Black folks can be developers in this space. There's still a need for financial capital to invest in projects and even to start your own projects, like we just heard from Terey. So it's really important to acknowledge the roadblocks that have been woven into the fabric of our society. I found that a lot of US-based Web3 projects are looking to make social impact in other parts of the world, which is really important, especially when we think about the need for solid infrastructure. But I've got to tell you, the compounding impact of the social inequities that I've just described has really created an urgent need to also focus on opportunities for African Americans to enter the Web3 space. So for me, really raising awareness of this has been a priority for me. I was fortunate to recently join the leadership team of a social impact project called Orbis 86. It's an NFT collection that's really centers diversity. It'll be dropping next month. It works to create Web3 experiences that are really built by and accessed and enjoyed by people from all backgrounds. They have a really big focus on storytelling and will allow NFT holders to link their stories to their NFTs, which I think is pretty cool. And what I really love about the founder, her name is Sonia Ahuja, is that she's not just running an NFT project. I mean, she's like out on panels talking about race and gender-based inequities and how to really be intentional and about Web3 inclusion, which I think is just really important. I also just joined an awesome project as a community member called The Fund. And that project is really intentional about connecting Black and Brown communities, women, LGBTQIA folks to Web3. So as you think about Web3 projects to explore, to buy into, to support, I really urge you to think about the impact that these projects are having on society. And think about whether they're upholding systems that unfairly advantage some people and disadvantage others, or if they're really being intentional about creating inclusive Web3 experiences for everyone. So thanks for listening to my ramblings. I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin and the rest of the panel.
No, that was perfect, especially diving into that the aspect that we should be thinking about. Like, as you said, it's like the great equalizer. That's like the term. However, you highlighted a lot of pressing things that we should be mindful of and cognizant about. So it's far beyond rambling. You know, you got your doctorate degree for a reason. So it was great. Any questions to Cynthia before we move to Camille? If not, I know you guys are I know we had a recent question to Terey, but we are going to address that later on in the discussion section. So if any questions come up to cater to Cynthia, please drop it in the chat. But thank you, that was awesome. Next, we have Camille. Camille, do you have a slide? Any slides? Okay, cool. All right, so Camille, I had the great opportunity to interact and engage with Camille and just learning more about her background and her expertise in tech. As you see, she started after spending like 18 plus years in Dell Technologies, being able to like really support with the sales pipeline, managing and delivering over $100 million in sales. One could say like she knows the stuff. And this is great because very so often do we see people that look like us being in that managerial executive position and to actually perform at a high caliber. And then after she left Dell, she started her own consulting firm where she supports businesses, startups of that type of nature to improve their cash flow, to improve like their operation and to increase like the evaluation of their company. I know this is just an overview. I know she has so much more to say, but I'm going to pass the mic to Camille.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate being here again. Cynthia, love your presentation, Terey. Super excited about technology and fashion. And yeah, I think that one of the things that is super exciting about this Web3 space is that we all get to bring our own gifts, and in bringing our gifts to the table, we can figure out what are the relevant opportunities for ourselves. And so, as Kevin mentioned, I'm an investor. I work with advising companies on helping them self-fund their growth. That's really my bent. We are a product of our own experiences in many ways. And yes, I actually spent over 18 years at what is arguably one of the success stories of Web2. I'm trying to get my slide to advance. I've lost. Sometimes when you go full screen on there we go. Okay, so yeah, I spent, like I said, arguably 2 decades at one of the success stories of Web2. I was one of that 3% that Cynthia spoke about. And while I was blessed, I also had different beginnings, if you will. So when I was 19 years old, I freed myself from what I call my father's financial tyranny. He was one of those fathers who liked to pull the strings of financial support. And at the age of 19, I decided that I didn't want to be that puppet anymore. And I decided that I was going to take care of myself. And so through the ups and downs of all of those opportunities, I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in communications from Virginia Tech. I got my MBA focused in finance because I wanted to understand the not only capital markets, but to understand truly how businesses succeed and fail so that I could one day look to those opportunities for myself. And so the environment that I spent a couple of decades in was all around we had to balance liquidity, profitability, and growth. We did not have a venture capitalist who was coming to save us with a large check. It's very interesting to see what's happening right now in Web3 and in also the markets because, it's a crypto winter, it's, down markets and all of those things, but there are always people making money in every environment if you know where to look. And so in that time, I did everything from walking away from vendors who did not give us favorable terms to scrapping products that were just not going to be profitable, to investing millions of dollars overnight in the capital markets to get returns that we could then funnel into our operations. So I had the opportunity to do a lot of different things, including spearheading a content marketing platform that ultimately delivered $1 billion of sales pipeline. So really had some unique opportunities to be what I call prepared for Web3, because I truly, truly believe that there is a concept, you hear this cash is king, but when cash is sitting still, it isn't doing nothing for you. And so I always say that cash flow is queen, which is really amazing when we think about the queens that will be present in maybe hearing the recording of this presentation. So I really like to say that, when currency, if you will, is in motion, that is where the greatest opportunities lie. So I take what were my experiences, both in my life and in my corporate role, and then apply them to organizations. And I really think that both as individuals as well as businesses, Web3 really is going to provide an opportunity. Yes, we need to be aware that there are risks, there are transaction risks, but there's also opportunity because there's always going to be currency in motion. And when we take out some of those intermediaries, we truly do, as Kevin mentioned, we have our ownership. We have that ownership of our data. We have our ownership of the currency. We have all of that ownership. With that ownership comes responsibility, great responsibility, right? But if we think about this idea of Web3 offering the cash flow and currency flow opportunities where I can create markets with people who I want to create markets with, where I can, if I can get access to the blockchain, I can transact and really truly own my value and set the price for that value. When we can truly let economic forces and market forces, supply and demand, play out, as opposed to supply and demand plus other people who have power to create the systems that we don't, that won't freely let that market force take place. And so it's really powerful. I think that also it can be overwhelming. And so I do agree with what Cynthia said, where we have to take responsibility to onboard and we have to share what we know and our knowledge and bring others along with us. I always talk about this concept of expanding the circle. And so I'm certain you all can appreciate that. And I think that the people on this call obviously are already doing that, some amazing organizations. So Bridge Labs and all of the others, I can't wait to look into everything that you're doing, because as we all take our responsibility to expand the circle, to bring someone else on, to lift as we climb, that is truly where we will get the opportunity to fully take advantage of Web3. And, I have to say that I've been blessed. I was actually a naysayer. Again, having studied, finance, I tended to have a less risk of, I was more risk averse. My risk profile was very, very conservative. I was, for the longest time, I lived in Austin at the time where a lot of things were happening with Bitcoin and what have you. And I was happy to sit on the sidelines because I thought, well, it's just a little too risky for me, a little too volatile. And then suddenly when I saw the cash flow, the currency flow, and the transaction volumes, I said, I can't sit on the sideline anymore. I really have to find a safe space to learn about this. I was lucky that I found a community. I found some ways in to get some shortcuts, if you will, in terms of knowledge. And then I like to share that. And so even in the last week, I've had the opportunity to, sell an NFT for half ETH, although I know that ETH is going down in value. I helped a social token founder really figure out what their growth strategy was going to be and how they were going to ground that in their shared economy with their community. I received over 700 creator tokens in just passive rewards just for being an investor. And I was able to help someone understand that their community and their token would be better on the Solana blockchain as opposed to the Ethereum sidechain that they're currently on. So really, there are so many opportunities to take what are your gifts and your value and really apply them to Web3. And so what I would say is, if you're thinking about, well, where do I start? Start with just being curious and asking questions, figuring out where you can ask a question in a place, in an environment, with a community, with an individual who is willing to not only answer you, but to be curious with you. And so I like to say, work from where you are and find situational knowledge. So if I am, with my background, I tend to look at the kind of use cases, if you will. That's actually how Kevin found me. I started a LinkedIn series called Web3 Windfall, which is, what are the money-making use cases of Web3? Let's talk about them. Let's explore them, and then let's share them with people who may happen upon this content. And so if you need to learn about Web3, figure out what you need to learn, because you can spend too much time, looking at technology, for example, if you are more financial, or, maybe Terey is not going to spend all the time figuring out how blockchains work because she's got to go figure out this technology so that the NFT can provide the discount to her raving fans, right? She doesn't have time to figure out the nuts and bolts of the blockchain. Maybe she doesn't even want to, but she can still take advantage of the money-making opportunities without knowing how the actual technology works, right? So not only be curious, but be careful about, being in community. You want to be in community with other members of the curious, I like to say, but you also want to be careful. You want to know that they're trustworthy. You want to be with action takers. Sometimes people get a little too theoretical, and you really want to know, what do I need to know today so that can help me take the next step in my educational journey? So that's my perspective. And I also think that, at the core, there is this idea of valuing what are your gifts and knowing that you have the ability to exchange them for value with people who need them. So again, let's figure out the ways to capitalize on this decentralization and truly hold our gifts well. Again, I got into this world reluctantly, I'm a part of a project called the Giraffe Tower. And so if you have your phone and you have the ability, I would love you to scan that QR code because I'm actually going to run a giveaway. So just for the people that are here, if you are not a giraffe owner, I think I might have seen at least one fellow giraffe owner who's here and in the chat. But if you are not a giraffe owner and you would like to scan that QR code, I'm going to run a giveaway. It's going to be randomly assigned. I think it stays open for the next maybe another hour after this meeting. So if you scan it, and you open up the webpage, go ahead and enter quickly because I will shut that down because I want to make sure that it truly is for the people who were here. And, like I said, it's an amazing community. I've learned a lot about crypto markets, different blockchains, how to run a successful NFT project, how not to, what the behavior of NFT flippers is like versus those that are in it for community and utility. And so I would like to invite you as my guest to that community. Even if you don't win, you'll hear from me and I'll let you know how you can become a part of just even the community on Discord where you can learn a lot. So that is my presentation. I'm happy to wrap up there. And then I think we're going into questions. Is that right, Kevin?
Yes, we are. That was great. A lot of insights. Let's pause right there and let's see if anyone have any questions for Camille. Cool. If no one have any questions, I think this would be a great segue to, I know we're getting close to the time, and I want to be conscious about that. I know earlier we was having some technical difficulties in regards to like the power, but hopefully we can ask 2 questions, if that's okay for our panelists, because I really want to make sure that that the audience can learn more about your experience, learning curves, and some advice and tips for aspiring women to tap into like the Web3 space. So let me first ask, and this is open to Terey, Camille, and Cynthia. What has been like the biggest learning curve and barriers that you have experienced entering into like the Web3 space?
Well, I'll just say for me very quickly, it was the concern about getting scammed and the whole idea that if I sent something to the wrong wallet, it was gone forever. So I felt very fortunate in that my very good friend, her boyfriend, is really, really, really deep into the community. And he was kind enough to meet with us on an ongoing basis to just walk us through the process to the point where I kind of felt comfortable doing exchanges or interactions with, Coinbase and MetaMask and everything on my own, to the point where I felt comfortable buying an NFT on my own. But I just remember in the early days, which was just last year, so it's, pretty recent, I just would have such feeling of anxiety every time I made a transaction. And even now, if I'm on a Discord or something, I will really try to do my best not to click on a link that I did not initiate, because I just don't want to, of course, get scammed.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and let me just say one other thing, and I think that this really goes to Camille's point in terms of thinking about what you need to know. So, I do have an extensive education background, but the truth of the matter is I really have never liked school, like at all. I would rather be doing anything than studying. But when it came to Web3, I studied to exhaustion, just in terms of being so intrigued by this whole space. So I really appreciate Camille's advice in terms of think about what it is that you need to know, because it is so easy to go down a rabbit hole. And it's just like, I'm not exercising, I'm not engaging with my friends, I'm not doing work. So yeah, be cautious of that.
Yeah, I would just say for me, in addition to what Cynthia said about security, which was definitely, again, I talked about my risk profile. So that was one that was definitely top of mind for me. But then also just the vocabulary, just trying to learn new vocabulary. And that took time. And it's funny, sometimes I will hear myself now talking to someone else and I'm thinking, to your point, Cynthia, a year ago, I didn't even know what that word meant. So, it's amazing how quickly, you can come up to speed. But yeah, the vocabulary for me was one of the biggest challenges.
Yes. And to piggyback off of what Cynthia and Camille said, I would say for me, it was understanding the technology. I went into this not understanding, like you said, a lot of the jargon, just a lot of the concepts. So I took a lot of notes and I just research so that, I was at least comfortable to the point where I could ask questions to my team and be like, okay, I heard you guys say this particular word. I know what that means. Okay. And then I would at least know what kind of questions to, start asking.
So, Terey, your background is quite interesting, being in the fashion world. How has that worked in regards to your experience bridging technology and fashion?
Honestly, I'm shocked at how much there's so many similarities, especially like when it comes to just the designing of the clothing. But once again, just jargon wise, like it required me to do a lot of research because there were a lot of things I didn't understand. Like at one point, I really didn't understand what Web3 was, so just really trying to research and just make everything kind of make sense, is vague as that sounds.
Okay, thanks. And we do have a question from the audience, and this is actually great. One of my next questions, and I will direct this to Cynthia or Camille because you guys touch about this. What advice can you give someone entering Web3? Where should they start?
Sorry. For me, I started with podcasts. So there's a podcast, it was called NFT for T's for Newbies. Now it's called Web3 and NFTs for Newbies. And what I like about that podcast is that the hosts were new themselves when they started. So like if you listen to earlier episodes, they fumble over words, like they pronounce Ethereum, Ethereum. So just, ignore that. But it's really good in terms of they ask the questions that people who are new to this space really want to know or to learn. So I would say definitely look at podcasts. And then there are just so many different videos on YouTube that you can check out. I would say the one thing to be cautious is that platforms change. So if you're looking at a tutorial on how to use Coinbase Pro, from a few months ago, even the interface may have been slightly updated. So just keep that in mind in terms of this space is evolving so much that you might see little changes. But in terms of getting to know this space, I'd say podcasts.
Yeah, I would echo that. I did a lot of my learning both on podcasts and then also on Clubhouse. Clubhouse now, maybe, it's still a good place. There's not as many voices there, if you will, as there were probably a year ago, but I did a lot of my learning both on Clubhouse, podcasts, and YouTube as well. But you're right, Cynthia. I remember one of my very first challenges with MetaMask was I was trying to use their tutorial on their website and follow the steps, and they were no longer the interface, the steps of the interface. And I thought, why don't they update this stuff? Because I'm struggling here and this tutorial is not accurate. So yeah.
Thanks. This is good. We have a couple more questions. By the way, I appreciate you guys for staying longer than scheduled. I really do appreciate that. We have a question for Terey, and then we can get to Charlotte. Terey, someone asks, what kind of data do you access? What kind of data do you have access to or can give to your project? She's referring to the NFT Ryan Moreau. And how would you use it?
I actually, can I get a little more clarity when you say what kind of data? Um, when it comes to the data that I have access to, I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I would have to direct that to my team of developers. But if you're asking what is it that the person who's purchasing the NFT is gaining access to, it would be the discount for the store and then the starter pack of creating their own 3D virtual model. So that comes with the one 3D model, the one outfit that you can customize yourself, and then the 3 accessories that you would get to customize as well. I hope that answers the question, Christy.
Cool, thanks. Let me, I'm gonna go with Charlotte's question, and then I see David, he has his hand raised. Charlotte asks, but she first says, great presentation. This is my question too. Is there space for people from different fields? She is an educator and a mental health provider, and she's a bit overwhelmed.
So I think that's an excellent question. And I would say absolutely 100%, Charlotte. I actually used to be a teacher, and like even thinking about NFTs, like think about like a thematic unit where with art, kids could create an NFT, and then computer science, they can, learn about the technology with building an NFT, and then, commerce, you can, learn about selling. I mean, there's so many ways to integrate parts of Web3 into curriculum. I think that it's really thinking about what are the students interested in, and then using that kind of as a launching point to create lessons. And to your broader point, one of the things that I'm focused on with Orbis 86 is starting to connect starting to connect nonprofits to Web3 opportunities. So for our Twitter spaces, in a few weeks, we're going to start having nonprofits who know nothing about Web3 on, talking about what they're doing, their mission, and then we're going to have leaders in the Web3 space say, hey, if I was executive director, here's how I would consider using Web3 assets to advance the mission. So absolutely, it's really about using these opportunities to be creative about advancing what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, I love that, Cynthia. And I would just add a couple of things. One is, I think the conversation around Web3 and technology at all, plus mental health, is very important. I know one of the servers that I'm in, the creator has ADHD. His social token is the ADHD coin. And on Mondays, they don't allow hosting in the Discord. It's supposed to be the mental health break day of the week. So there's already, people in the space who are having that conversation and realizing that we need to be well mentally and emotionally as we take advantage of this technology. That's one of the reasons why I picked the persistent vision NFT that is my PFP, because it's like that third eye intuition wisdom, as well as the use of technology, and it's the marrying of those two. Plus, I would also say that as an educator, you understand the sequencing of how to put steps together so that audiences can learn. So yes, there is a place for you, 100%.
And to Camille's point about the taking a break, I don't know how many of you all saw Ready Player One or read the book. I'd much rather watch a movie than read a book, to tell you the truth. If you're interested about what metaverse experiences could look like, although it's a little bit extreme, check out that movie. But one of the things that was done, I don't want to give away the end, but now I think I'm going to have to. Well, I won't really give it away. They talked about one day off from the Oasis, for the Oasis, or their metaverse was closed so that people could connect with each other in real life.
Okay.
Awesome. This is good. We have 2 more questions and we have to wrap it up. David, I invited you to the stage. If you want to unmute yourself, please go ahead.
And let me just say, Ready Player One. Oh, Camille put that in the chat. Thanks, Camille.
Hello. Mark?
Yes, we can hear you, David.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Technology is actually helping us in this country. But with all the speakers, I want to ask, I am interested in the agriculture sector. And looking at the level that we've gone with our activities, I want to see how best this can fit in the agriculture sector. How does this fit in the agriculture sector to help us improve our marketing? Thank you.
All right, let me repeat that question. David asks for everyone is how can Web3, this technology, be incorporated in the agriculture sector, given Liberia is still very agricultural-based economy. So he posed that question to like the panelists. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
That's a great question. I'll be honest, that's not a vertical that I know a lot about, but I would suspect that blockchain records of crop quantities and prices at particular times in the market, and literally having that blockchain verification of that data, so you're not being taken advantage of when you go to market, to me seems like a use case that would make sense.
And I would suspect, and DeFi is not my area of expertise, but when it comes to sales, just being able to connect directly with purchasers without the need for some type of intermediary.
And one thing I can say, I can go for days about when it comes to smart contracts and ensuring that we digitize the supply chain space. David, you should really check out No Simba Chain. If anyone wants to actually get involved into smart contracts and you don't have the technical skills, you should really leverage No Simba. So it's a no-code platform that allows you to transform assets into assets and to have it turn into a variable, and that variable can be deployed on a smart contract. And they are very compatible to a lot of different chains, from Polygon to Binance to Ethereum. But I say this because I believe we are entering into this next transition of using NFTs in our supply chain mechanism. And this can really help out farmers, where now you can track the cocoa bean throughout the entire lifeline by using a QR code and putting it on a bag. And that QR code can be actually placed on a digital ledger. So there's so many different use cases that you can start to think about when it comes to smart contracts and being applied. I get excited talking about this because I have been conversing with several people on the ground about how can we do this. So this is just, a thing that you can look into. One final question before we close out, and I'm seeing a lot of people saying this, is what's the opportunities? What's the career opportunities in the Web3 space? And how, if I'm a Web2 developer or Web2 marketer or Web2 educator, what's the career opportunities?
Well, I would say that one of the interesting opportunities is being a community moderator for an NFT space. This is something that you can do in any part of the country. And, if you are with a project that, is based on the US economy, although things are shaky right now, it might be, a profitable opportunity in terms of what they're paying, what the compensation is. So I would highly, in fact, even if you're based in the US, from what I understand, some of these community managers actually kind of make a lot of money. So that's something that I think that it would be a viable option for anybody who is skilled when it comes to engagement. And engagement is a skill. Just because you're, post on social media doesn't mean that you've got the skills. And I've seen really awesome community managers from all over the world that are able to make the project happen because they're in there engaging people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would also add that even community management on Discord, so if Discord is not a platform that you yet participate on, there's a huge opportunity there. I know that the Giraffe Tower project that I had the opportunity for the giveaway, I believe the vast majority of the support team for that server are in Nigeria. Run 24/7. You can always go to the support channel in that server and get help. With topic relevant stuff, obviously. But you can be a community manager and or support person if that's an entry point for you. I would also say though, but just think about it, that there are certain principles of cash flow, if you will, that are universal. There will always be an opportunity and a need for some sort of marketing. There will always be an opportunity and a need for some sort of data gathering. There will always be an opportunity and a need for connecting to your customers and making sure that they're happy. So if you have any of those skills, again, to the point where I made with value your gifts, like those principles will always be in play. There will always be a need for those. And so even if you start there, but not the least of which is the technology too, obviously, and being able to understand and to speak, like we talk about smart contracts, but they're really code, right? They're not actual contracts like you would think a legal contract. And so if you know how to translate and make, do the coding or use a no code app, like Kevin mentioned, that's important as well, because oftentimes you will have an idea, but you don't know anything about how would I actually put 500 units of that on a marketplace and sell it, let's say. So, yeah.
And being geographically distant from where a project is based can actually be an advantage, because it provides the project the opportunity to work around the clock, which I've actually done on a non-Web3 related project. But to have somebody in a different time zone and you're running a 24-hour operation, you are at a much better advantage. You have a competitive edge when you think about what other folks who are just focused in one location are how they're operating.
Okay. To answer the question, I would say I don't know any specific career opportunities that exist in Web3, but just even the benefits of just adapting the technology and then applying it to whatever industry you're in, right? There's this thing with being able to just be more transparent, whether or not your records, like you said, you're tracking different processes. Like I know in fashion, one of the things and I'm always talking about sustainable fashion, because that's like a huge topic in the industry, because it's coming out now that fashion industry is the second most pollutant next to the oil industry, which is crazy and it's huge, but we all wear clothing. But I know a lot of companies are trying to get into being more transparent about their process of whether or not it's ethical, whether or not they're sourcing, ethical materials and things like that. So it will be a way to incorporate the technology in there to just kind of make things a little more efficient and transparent with everyone.
Thank you so much. This is always exciting. So we went about 18 minutes over and we still have a pretty engaging crowd. So I really do appreciate everyone. Before we close out, Camille, Terey, Cynthia, where can our audience reach out to you guys, get in contact, a little more about the major things that you guys are doing?
Yeah, I'd say the best way to reach me is probably to follow me on Twitter. And if you want to reach out directly to me, send me a DM in this chat and I'll give you my email address.
Yeah,
okay, great.
So Twitter, I'm Camille B. Nisich. LinkedIn is also a good channel for me, Camille Nisich. I'm pretty much Camille B. Nisich or Camille Nisich everywhere. I'm also Camille Nisich on Discord. So if you find me on Discord, I'm not some weird name. I'm just me. So.
Right.
The best way to reach me would be by Instagram, and I'll drop my Instagram in the chat. And then I guess also via email, and I'll drop that as well.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate all of the co-organizers from Liberia Forward to Rotel House of Innovation, to DC Data Girls, to the Hustlers of Engineering, as well as savvy programmers. This has been great. I'm really happy with all of the questions that the audience had to ask, and also sharing the knowledge that it's a collective effort. And at Bridge Labs, we're really passionate about being the builders. Let's be the builders of this new technology. Let's actually continue to expand this global market that we live in. So I'm really happy that we can all engage from different time zones to just come together for this awesome event. So I appreciate every last one of you guys. Lawrence, do you want to close out, or anyone else?
If anybody else has anything to say, for sure. But on behalf of Liberia Forward, Rotel, Bridge Labs, even though he just spoke, thank you all for really showing up. I truly applaud Kevin and his efforts to really bridge the gap for technology between African Americans, Africans of the diaspora, and Africa right here at home. I believe our generation is going to be the generation that truly moves our culture forward, and technology is going to be the catalyst in doing so. Not only that, but our women. We know that our nations cannot be a nation without our women. And so to have such informative and just, innovative women that are in this space, I'm excited. My nieces are definitely going to have, people to watch and look up to. They're here at Rotel learning about computers and indulging into the Web3 space at ages 14 and 18. So it's just a pleasure, and I'm excited to not only support, but to be right by you all side and for us to continue to move forward. So.
Whoa, what a mic drop. He just,
I think.
And he's back.
Sorry about that. That's how internet goes around. But thank everybody for coming. The information was great. And ladies, thank you. I hope that we can continue to do this again, and looking forward to it.
Awesome, I appreciate you. Any final words from our panelists before we close out?
No, just thank you. Love the opportunity. Discussion. Looking forward to staying in contact. So thank you.
Yeah, and I just quickly wanted to follow up on what Lawrence just said about amplifying women and Black women. It's not every day that Black women get a platform to talk about their expertise. So I just really wanted to acknowledge everybody who was involved in organizing this, and to thank you all very much for hosting this and amplifying the voices of Black women. That's very important. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, so true.
And so, I'm David saying, I think I wasn't here from the beginning, when I was supposed to introduce Rotel. So I just want to say that I'm very grateful to Calvin and our sisters that are serving as the panelists today. I just wanted to, well, I don't know if I say encourage or something. There are a lot of female Liberians that are here right now at Rotel, listening to, listening to the Terey, Cynthia, and Camille right now. I want to believe they're going to be using you as a role model moving forward. I just want to indulge you to, hear them out. I mean, they need help. Liberia, actually, we're very backward when it comes to technology. But with the presence of Rotel and Liberia Forward, we're trying to open the countries to the world and expose them to technology so they can be able to find a niche to be able to have it. So I just want you to be on a standby, just in case any of them would like, some sort of encouragement or some sort of advice on how to move forward with their career in technology. We at Rotel are always going to be here to provide the powerful for them to be able to excel and achieve their goals. But I think female like to speak to female more. So I just want you guys to be on a standby to help them out with, with ideas. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
100%.
Cool. Yes, well, I appreciate you guys. And once again, it's only fitting, especially tomorrow being Juneteenth. And it's only fitting that we have representatives from Liberia, as Liberia being one of like the first country, one of the first countries that was founded by the free slaves, African American slaves. So it's only fitting that we have Liberia and also representatives from the United States, with tomorrow being Juneteenth. So I think it's only right we close out on that. So I'm very happy that we was able to all come together. So you guys have a beautiful rest of the day. You guys know how to contact each other. Until next time.
Thanks so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
you.